Hey guys, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole, and I'm with Christopher Smith, and we're breaking down all of the SEC games for week 2 from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about the Vanderbilt at Colorado State game. It's the late game on the week 2 slate for SEC teams. The kickoff is at 10 p.m. Eastern out in Colorado. This game's at Canvas Stadium in Fort Collins. It's going to be on the CBS Sports Network if you're looking for it on the TV. This game had a wild move at the beginning of the week when the lines first came out from a betting perspective. It opened at Colorado State -1, and it's moved all the way to Colorado State -7. And that was a 6-point move there, but the over-under is pretty well has stayed the same. It opened at 51, and it's dropped slightly to 50.5. Bringing in Christopher Smith as our betting analyst. Christopher, what do you think about that sharp move on Sunday in this line?
Yeah, big move early, but I tell you what, I'm excited. If you're watching this video, it's great to be with you because you're either a very diehard Vanderbilt Commodores fan, or you are a very big degenerate and who loves to bet on college football. And either way, you're definitely my kind of people. So appreciate you being here with us today. But why don't we get into Nick's news and notes? Nick, you're close to this Vanderbilt program. Why don't you tell us what the headlines are entering this game?
Sure. So let's start with some weather and injuries before we get into the really bad news for Vandy fans. The weather in Colorado, a little bit hotter than you might expect. It's a high of 92 on Saturday with a low of 59. Now it's a 9 p.m. kickoff time local start there in Colorado. So it's going to be late. We'll probably see closer to that 59 low. So we'll probably be sitting somewhere in the upper 60s, lower 70s. Wind at about 10 miles per hour. No rain in the forecast. So it should be a pretty decent track for this game. In terms of injuries, Vanderbilt has one of note that kind of cropped up coming out of their disastrous loss on Saturday. Starting tight end Ben Bresnahan has a lower body injury, and he's considered doubtful for this game. And those who know a little bit about Vanderbilt know he's been one of their more reliable options in that offense, and will definitely be missed for a team that struggled to score last week. And then also Deshaun Jerkins is at least questionable for this game. We're not exactly sure if he'll suit up or not. But the things I want to talk about, some news and notes going into this one. First of all, we can't go into the week 2 analysis of this game without first going back to the disaster that was week 1 for Vanderbilt, right? They lost 23-3 on their home field to ETSU, East Tennessee State University. Yes, that's a real school. And it's a program that's actually run by former Tennessee offensive coordinator Randy Sanders. And they just rolled into Nashville and did all the right things to knock off Clark Lee in his Vanderbilt coaching debut. It makes you wonder, where does this team go from there? Clark Lee spent all off season trying to promote a culture change, get buy-in from players, get rid of players who don't fit that buy-in. And then to come out and lose by 20 points to an FCS program, it's going to really test the faith those players have in this new regime. And the other thing that maybe is creates some pause and definitely a cause for concern, if you're a long-term Vanderbilt fan, is there's already rumblings about who's making the play calls, why they're the ones making the play calls on the offensive side of the ball. We actually learned in the fallout of this loss that the Vanderbilt offensive coordinator, David Rye, isn't even calling the plays, didn't call the plays on Saturday. Presumably it was passing game coordinator and QB coach Joey Lynch, who Clark Lee says has been calling plays since he reassigned that duty at some point in training camp. So you're already looking at a situation where there's a trust issue on whether Clark Lee knows what he's doing on the field. And then you look at, are there issues on who he hired in the first place to call these plays? So a lot of unease on West End and Nashville is probably the best way to put it at this point. But the last thing I would mention is, Colorado State lost to an FCS program as well. Now, Christopher, as you were pointing out to me so respectfully before the show, South Dakota State is an FCS school in name, but is one of the very best in the country. And by all intents and purposes, we probably should be considering them more like a lower tier FBS school, maybe even a mid-tier FBS school with the talent that they have there. Colorado State lost 42-23 to that team. And I don't know how many people have been keeping tabs on Colorado State since Mike Bobo left, an SEC guy there from Georgia. But there's another SEC guy, or at least a guy that has some SEC roots, heading up that program in former Gators offensive coordinator Steve Adazio, who was more recently at Boston College. So just some things that you should know about both of these programs going into this late kick. Christopher, from a betting standpoint, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I mean, just for some perspective here, I mean, you're in Nashville, you know this program, but I mean, James Franklin made a couple of bowl games, and I think Derek Mason went to a bowl game with this team. Now you see this line, and you mentioned it moved from -1 to -7 in 1 hour. And we're not talking about Vanderbilt playing Georgia. We're not talking about Vanderbilt playing Florida. We're talking about a Colorado State team, as you mentioned, just lost by 19 points at home to maybe the best FCS program, but still an FCS program. You look at the 24/7 Sports team talent composite rankings, Vanderbilt is 59th. Not good for an SEC program at all, but you know, that's in the very middle of the 130 FBS teams in terms of talent. Colorado State is 94th on that list. They got picked by the media to be in the bottom half of their division in the Mountain West this season. And again, they rank 105th in SP Plus out of 130 teams. This is Colorado State. And bettors hate this Vanderbilt team so badly that within the instant this came out favoring Colorado State, they immediately hammered Vanderbilt so hard that it had to move up to -7 through the key number of 3, through the key number of 4, through the key number of 6. None of that mattered. And I think that's just wild. You know, Vanderbilt underperformed the line against East Tennessee State by 41 points. That's how far off that the line was in that game. And that's sort of shocking to me. I mean, Vanderbilt went 4-5 against the spread last season against an all SEC schedule at the end of the Derek Mason era. And Vanderbilt returned 17 starters. And again, you know, they have more talent than Colorado State, at least on paper. And I'm not a big believer in Steve Adazio. I don't think him coaching Mike Bobo's castoffs is, you know, going to do anything great in Colorado State. Now you look at the game against East Tennessee State. Vandy did have a -3 turnover margin, and they did have 10 more first downs than East Tennessee State. A very poor running game kind of crushed them, but I do think, number one, the box score shows me the game was a little bit closer than the final score indicated, even though East Tennessee State probably looked like a little bit better of a team. And the number two thing, I think the market may be a little overreacting to 1 week sample size here. So, you know, Vanderbilt in jeopardy of another losing season or a winless season. But what do you think about the market and the line on this game, Nick? What are you picking and why?
You may be able to count me among those who overreacted if you're right at the end of the day, but what I saw from Vanderbilt on Saturday leaves me very uncomfortable backing them in a bet this week. I didn't see anything that was any glimmer of hope from a way that they approach things, from the energy on the field to the play calling. That makes me think they can pick up the pieces from losing that game, go on the road to Colorado, and beat any FBS program right now. So I'll lay the 7 points with Colorado State. I'm not particularly excited about it. I don't love anything about their team. This is just a play on how bad I think Vanderbilt is right now. Not to say they can't get better, and they probably will. I do still believe in Clark Lee in the long run. But right now, they've got a lot of things to get figured out. So give me the Rams. I'll lay the 7. And let's keep it under 50 here, because I'm not a believer in either one of these teams. So I don't know why I should believe either one of them running up a big tally here. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would virtually shake the hand of either of these coaches if they score in the 30s in this game. Yeah, the total of 50, pretty much one team needs to be in the 30s. I mean, you get 28-24, I guess that goes over. So maybe there's a shot, but it'll be close otherwise. So I'll take under 50. And, normally in college football, if you look at the math and the percentages and you take, the number of times that the margin is 6 points, 7 points, et cetera, and you put it into a spreadsheet, teasing a college football game is minus EV almost all the time, meaning the expected value, it's a bad idea usually, but on rare instances, I think it's worth considering. And to me, this might be one of those instances. If you can tease a 6-point teaser, taking Vanderbilt from +7 to +13, pretty key number there at 13, going through 8, going through 10, it may be worth considering. For the record, I'm going to hold my nose and take Vanderbilt +7. I just think bringing back 17 starters and box score that was really skewed last week, even though they deserve to lose. I think, they had 23 first downs to 13 for ETSU. I'm going to count on them not having a -3 turnover margin in this game. And I'll take Vanderbilt +7. I'll say it'll be a competitive, ugly, low scoring game all the way through. So for Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for SEC 14. Just want to let all you know that we are breaking down every single SEC game from a betting standpoint this season. So if you've watched to the end of this video and you're a Vanderbilt fan or you're a sports bettor, make sure you subscribe and check out the other videos as well. As we always say in the business, all that matters in betting is getting yourself to the window with a winning ticket. Doesn't matter how good the game is. So hopefully we'll be able to do that for you this week, and we'll continue talking to you next week as well.